All right, hey Larissa. So a little update video on Kessie. I'm trying something new today as far as my videoing. I've got my GoPro on, this little lapel mic that I got, and then my phone camera as well. So um, I've been wanting to get into video editing for my social media stuff. So I'm using this video as a little test run for that, learning how to do that. So my plan is to sync up these videos with the audio and be able to switch back and forth between the two camera shots. So we'll see how it works. Um, but riding Kessie out in the outdoor arena today, um, I've ridden her off and on past week or so with weather and schedule and stuff, probably about every other day average. She's doing pretty good. I've been trotting her out here some, trotting her in the pen quite a bit. I've been working on shoulder movement, which is going pretty good, and working on hip movement, which is going good, but it's not, the hip movement is not consistent yet, but that's fine for where we're at. So my main goal for today is to get some trotting in. I want to get her loosened up. Um, Something I'm working on personally is trotting without wanting to bend her around and use the reins, trusting her, especially out in this big open space, setting down the reins and just letting her trot out freely. That's more on me than it is on her. But when I do that, then she tends to loosen up and trot freer. Whereas if she thinks I'm about to be pulling on the reins all the time, she gets real stiff in her neck. So I'm trying to allow her to trot out freer. And then I want to be able to pick up the reins and guide her around and have her stay soft. I also want to do some shoulder control today out here and some hip control out here. I've only done those in the small pen or up next to a fence. So I'm going to do those away from a fence a little bit. And yeah, that's about it. It's already getting later, so that's probably all I'll get through. That would be a good day. I rode her yesterday in the pen, and it was pretty, or this was maybe 2 days ago. Anyway, it was pretty cold. It was a pretty interesting day for riding, but she did really good. That was the cool part. Even though it was not the best conditions, she did really good. All right. So I haven't done any groundwork with her today. Just jumping right on. She's at the point where I trust her like that. Of course, I'll do some lateral flexion once I get on, but if I trust them, I like to not do any groundwork before, unless I feel like they need it. But catching her, saddling her, bringing her out into the arena, I'm reading that body language through the whole thing, and she seems good. So I'm not going to do groundwork unless she needs it. So. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and do some lateral flexion. That's good. Good on the left. And on the right, it's not too bad. One thing that I've been working on, I think the GoPro will show this a little bit better. Watch when I bend her around to the left, watch her eyeball. Right there, hopefully in the camera, you can see that corner of her eye. There's quite a bit of white there. You can kind of see that her eye is away from the lateral flexion. It's not turned in from the lateral flexion. You might even be able to see it from the iPhone better. That's pretty good right there. I want her eye to come in here because that tells me that her brain is coming over here too and not just her head. On the right side. It's not too bad. Now, what you'll notice as after we start trotting a little bit, that's going to get a little bit worse. And so I just want to make sure I have a good baseline with it now before we go trot some. And then I want to work on that flexion again. I'm going to walk her around a little bit. I'm a little cold and stiff right now, so I'm sure she is. All right, now I just wanted her to steer to the left right there off of my indirect rein, but she took that as a signal to trot because I was using my leg to back it up. So I'll just bring her back to that walk and make sure I can steer her off that indirect rein. Not sure what that was right there. I think just a little trip. So she's a little up right now, but that's understandable. There we go. Good. So she loosened up and got relaxed there, and I kind of just said, okay, let's walk, and then boom, she hit the brakes and just, I'm just gonna drive her back up through that. She still feels very tense, and so just kind of working through things to try to get her focused and get her relaxed. She's kind of wanting to look to the outside and not really wanting to get off that indirect rein. Hopefully you can see that in the GoPro right here. See, my hands are centered here. I bring my hands across and she's not getting off that rein. So what you can't see right there is I added some leg. I'm gonna keep the leg and keep the reins until she gets off of that, and is it back at a walk. Right there is what I want. I'm gonna take my hands over to the right using that indirect rein. Good, that time she got off of that. Very good. One other thing that that I noticed is, or that happened once, was we finished trotting and we were out here and I reached back and petted her on her rump. And she was not expecting that. She kind of bolted, or not didn't bolt, but she jumped because I touched her butt. And so I want to make sure that I'm touching her all over, petting her, make sure she realizes that I'm here and that things are going to touch her in the course of the ride. And then we'll just go right back to riding. Better. A lot more relaxed right here. Okay, so I laid that left rein across. I was one-handed, and I think I was one-handed. Anyway, neck reined right there, indirect reined, and she didn't respond to it, so I had to add a little bit of direct rein, a little bit of foot, but she did not speed up to a trot. She just moved that shoulder off the rein, which is exactly what I want. Very good. I want all my horses to know that if 1 foot is added, or even honestly, if 2 feet are added, it doesn't necessarily mean speed up. It may mean move a body part around. Now, it may mean speed up in certain circumstances, but not always. There, she's kind of diving that shoulder in, so I'm just going to go right into working on some shoulder. Now, you might recognize what I'm doing right here from the groundwork. If you remember, a lot of times I stand on the ground, and like in this case, I would use my right hand to take that rein across her neck, and then I would use my left hand to simulate my foot and get her to step across with those shoulders, right? This is why I do that on the ground. That's preparing her for that moment right there. When she wants to dive that shoulder in, and I need to stand it up, I can pick it up with this rein right there, add my foot, and now she's backing up a little bit. There, she stepped over in front, and a little bit more. There we go. There, that wasn't too bad. Good girl. That shoulder dived in again. I'm gonna stand it back up, Go back. Now, if I had not done that in the groundwork, if I had just gotten on a colt or, or her, not with no understanding of how to get off of that rein and foot pressure, it would take a while to get through that. But I've only done that a few times on her, and always in the pen, never out here. Nice big sigh and relaxation right there. And yet it worked. It worked every time I did it. We never got into a fight right there. Never got into a dangerous spot. It just worked. And that's because of all the groundwork. Very good. I'm going to go and back her up right here. And that's pretty good backup. Especially on the young horses, but really even on older horses. When you go to back them up, you want to do very, very little at a time. You want them to commit to the backup, but as soon as they commit to that backup, you want to stop. So I'm going to cue the backup with my reins, move her feet with my feet. So there's the cue. Now I'm moving her feet with my feet, and she commits to it, and I release. Cue with the reins, move her feet with my feet, and release. I want her to seek out that backup. What happens, and I'm guilty of this too, I tend to back them up and then want more and want more and want more. And what the horse sees that as is, well, the more I back up, the more I get kicked. If you just back up a little bit, get her to move, and she commits right there, and I release. Then they will actually start to look for that backup. Good. Really like that. All right, let's go do some trotting. Just gonna squeeze her up. I want to keep my reins loose if I can. Now you can see, and I'll probably do the GoPro video right here. You can see how she got real stiff with her neck. Ooh, there she loosened up a little bit. I like that. Here she's real stiff. And Cody's driving into the pen over here, or in the indoor. So she's kind of looking at that. So I'm gonna just walk her for a second. But so you saw when I went into that trot how her head tends to come up and get bracy. And so that's the next thing for us to be working on with her. I want her to be able to trot just as calm as she's walking, really before I go into a lope. All right, I'm going to push her into that trot again. There we go. She kind of wanted to dive out to the side there. This is where you just got to kind of be the boss and just let them know, no, you need to do what I tell you to do. You don't get to get away with stuff. Good. I actually liked that. She kind of came to a stop, but she was also loosening up her neck. Good. Go ahead and bend her to a stop right here. Good. Oh, notice her eye. Whoops, my camera got... That might not have gotten some good footage on the GoPro. All right. That's actually pretty good. I don't know if you could see it a second ago. When I first ended that trotting, and then I went to do lateral flexion, her eye was really stuck out, in this case to the left, away from the lateral flexion. But the second time I did lateral flexion, that right there, that's really good. Super happy with that. Bunch of trotting. She was stiff, but then as soon as we stop, she gets nice and loose. And also part of the reason I stopped the trotting right there was she was starting to release some of that tension, and I want to reward her for releasing that tension. So I'd like to wait for a lick and a chew right here. Cody's starting that machine over there, so hopefully he'll still be able to hear me, even with that noise going. So still just waiting right here. I love that she didn't care when that machine started. So just like we wait for lick and chews on the ground, I gotta wait for lick and chews on the saddle sometimes too. I don't do it as much on their saddle. Maybe I should do it more. I don't know. But we gotta give them time to process stuff, and she just did a really good trot right there. She relaxed during the trot. I want to give her plenty of time to think about, hey, that trotting wasn't so bad, you know. Come all the way down to relaxation. I think what I'm going to do next, I'll just talk on her to let you. I'm going to come back over in front of the camera here, and I'm going to work on some hip control. Now, I've only done this with her facing a fence before. There is a lick and a chew. Excellent. Normally, the way I start hip control is I have them facing a fence, and that way they can't go forward. So I'm not having to use the reins to keep them from going forward. And I try to get them to pendulum, like pretend their face is hinged on the fence, like fixed point on the fence and hinged, and then they just pendulum left and right. She's been doing that pretty good, and I think that now I have enough control over her shoulders to get her hips to do that. And that's the thing, you have to have good control over the shoulders and the face and the forward in order to be able to work on the hind end. And that's why we always train the horse front to back, train the head and neck, then the shoulders, then the hips. So, all right, there was a good lick and a chew. I'm gonna go ahead and bring her over here to the camera. All right. Back her up here. She was getting a little like, oh, we're going home. Let's just go. So I'm going to back her up pretty good right there. Now I'm going to walk her forward again. Make sure that she doesn't kind of get in that, oh, we're going home. Yay. Okay. Oh, asked her to back up, and she was a little slow about that. Okay, I'm going to now just I'm backing to get into the camera frame. Okay, I backed her there, but the shoulder went more than anything else, and so she didn't really back a straight line. So here I'm just going to wait until she backs and clears the shoulder right there. That was great. Hopefully the GoPro got that. So I was initially backing her, and her shoulders went in like that. So what I did was I kept backing her and got her to straighten up. All right. I'm going to back her a little bit more. Now the shoulders are falling down again, so I'm going to stand them up. Now she's backing, but the shoulders aren't really clearing. Now the shoulder's cleared, but she's not backing anymore, right? So I'm going to back her up. There she went to dive forward. She knew I was trying to get these shoulders to move, and she's like, oh, I'll bet I can do that easier if I go forward. No, you don't get to do that. I'm going to keep working her here. You can't see my left foot really, but it's pushing on her left shoulder right there. She cleared her shoulder, but she's not backing up. There. There. And then I need the back up. There. Now she was soft to this indirect rein and the both direct reins, and everything softened up and moved over. That's what I want. Now I'm just going to ask her to back straight up. I feel that left side kind of wanting to dive in a little bit. She wanted to dive forward. Now it's the left hind end that wanted to squirt out to the left. There. That was a nice straight back up. Good. Excellent. Okay, we're pretty well in front of the camera here. So I said I was going to work on hips, but just in trying to back right there, if you notice, her shoulders weren't responding to my reins very well. So what I'm going to do now is work on what didn't work there, which is backing and having her shoulders move off of my reins at the same time. So I'm going to start with the same way that wasn't working earlier. Left indirect rein, moving the shoulders to the right and backing at the same time. I'm going to pick up on the reins, ask her to back up, ask the shoulder to step over. There was the shoulder, and there's the backup. Good. Now, at the beginning, you can't necessarily expect the horse to get both of those at the same time, the shoulder and the backup, but she should at least be able to transition between the two quickly. I should be able to get a back and a shoulder, and a back and a shoulder, and a back and a shoulder. Pretty soon they'll mold together, and you'll have them moving off of that. As for it again, back up with a little bit of left indirect rein. Using my feet. I probably wasn't using my feet enough earlier. There. A little bit. Right there. I liked that. Hopefully in the GoPro you could see that shoulder moved. I'm going to turn this down just a little bit. Still an experiment on this GoPro to see if the angles and what works best. Right there. Yeah, need a little more back. There's the back. There's clearing the shoulder. Yes, I like that. That was really good. All right, that worked pretty well. I'm going to give her a break on that. I'm going to do the right side. So we're going to have straight back with both reins, but with a little bit of right indirect rein to clear the shoulder to the left. All right, here we go. Oh, don't have any backup there. There's my backup. Now I need her to clear that shoulder. But as soon as we cleared the shoulder, she stopped backing up. Headed out? All right, cool.
Thank you.
I'm not talking to myself. I'm making a video. Thanks for mucking. Absolutely. Have a good evening. Okay, sounds good. All right, so I'm gonna, there's the shoulder. Good. Okay, so I'm gonna ask her to back up. A little bit of right indirect rein. Ask her to back up. And there. That's not too, oh, I need more of that shoulder now. Now she's kind of just losing the plot. Get her back into shape here. Right indirect rein. That was a little bit better. I'll let her stop on that. It wasn't great. It was a little bit better. Okay, I'm going to bring her back out here in the middle. And let's back up. There we go. Good. So I think part of the reason this isn't working super well in certain areas is she's scared of what's going on in that indoor, and it's scary for all the horses. It's not a bad thing for her. It's good for her to have to pay attention even when there's things around her that scare her. But that's why she doesn't want to pay attention and yield and do everything, especially going over towards the indoor. But whatever, she's got to get over it. All right, let's try it again. So what I want is backwards with a little bit of yielding of the shoulder to the right. So I cue the back up, a little bit of right indirect rein. Now she kind of gets heavy against that, so I'm going to use more foot. There's the clearing the shoulder. It's pretty good. And that's good shoulder. Now I need some backup. That's not too bad. I'll accept that. Good. I like that she's hanging her head down and relaxed. I'm still able to get that flexion. I want to always go back and make sure that lateral flexion is working on both sides. She's nice and soft right there. Beautiful. And then see how her head starts to go down? So the reason her head is starting to go down now is that we're freeing up the shoulders. We're getting the shoulders lifted and actually working correctly. And then that allows her head just to hang down because her head doesn't have to do anything anymore. If her back is engaged and working correctly, there's nothing for the head and neck to need to do. Horses that aren't working correctly, their head and neck they use as a counterbalance to be able to get their body to move. But a horse that's moving his body correctly, the head and neck just hang there. Here I just want her to collect. So the difference I did there, I just wanted a little bit of softness from her neck, from her pole. And so I picked my hands more up rather than back here, and I had no legs going. So that's kind of how she knew that that didn't mean backup right there. All right, I'm about ready to be done with the session for today. She's doing really good. And I need time to get Maple done today as well before the sun goes down. But I just want to walk her around. I might even trot her a little bit. I just kind of want to get her attention. Now that was good. Hopefully I got GoPro video of that. But right there, I'm going to stand this shoulder up a little bit. I was able to just lay that rein on her neck, and she got off it real quick. That was awesome. Stand her shoulder up there a little bit. All right, not bad. She went to trot off there because I was asking her to do that, and she's a little uptight about the sawing going on in the indoor. But she went to trot off, and then she caught herself, and she's like, oh, that's not the right thing. So she's in control of herself now. All right, she's getting a little pissy. There. I love that. I was actually able to clear that shoulder and get her collected up right there. Now she's diving into that turn a little too much. I'm going to stand her up to the outside. There. And then when she gives me that, then I release. There. Now she's just walking out. All right, I'm just going to ask her to stop. Back her up. So now what I'm doing now is pushing with my left foot back and my right foot forward. See how her shoulder's diving in? There. Now, whoop. Here to back up. There. There. Okay, so we were pointing pretty much straight this direction, right? And I asked her to stop and back. And when I asked her to stop and back, her butt went out to the left and her shoulders fell into the right. So I added my left foot back on her hind end and my right foot forward on her shoulders and straightened her up and got her to back straight. And then I allowed her to stop here straight. You've got to be that precise and that critical every time you ride her if you want her to be really solid. Like if you don't, you can just ride her and let her get away with stuff and it'll be okay. But you won't have that really precise horse when it comes time when you really want a very precise horse. Like if there's something dangerous, a cliffside or a hole that you don't want to step in or something, and you really need to be able to be precise with her foot placement, you won't have it unless you do that every single time. And there's other benefits too. Like if she knows that when I go to stop her, I'm going to stop her and make her back straight, she's going to keep her body more straight as she's traveling forward too, right? So it's important it'll improve the way she travels if you make her stop and back up straight as well. All right, she's looking at that horse over there, but she's bringing her attention back to me pretty nice. Good, I was able to stand her shoulder up right there. Good. So now she's actually riding what I would say called between my hands. I'm able to just barely steer one direction or the other, and she's just right there. See that? She kind of went out to the right, or left, and I kind of steered her back to the right, and she's staying between my hands real nicely. There, I was able to make just that small little correction to the right and keep her on this circle. Now there she kind of said, oh, I'm turning. I'm just going to turn. I don't care what you're doing. I'm just going to turn. And so I got pretty forceful with her. You got to stay out on the circle. Stay correct, and then I'll let you go. Okay, she's a little forward right now. I'm going to go ahead and ask her to stop. Back up. There. Up there. There. So the reason I did that, as we were walking, some good and bad things. So the good thing was she lowered her head and looked and chewed, but the bad thing was she was powering through that walk and very front end heavy and just like, I'm going. And I didn't get the feeling that if I picked up on the reins and asked her to back up, that she would be nice and light and soft to it. And so obviously we're going to do the opposite of whatever we feel them doing. I feel her getting too fast and too forward, and it doesn't feel like I'm going to be able to back up easily. We're going to back up. So that's why I did that right there. Now I'm going to go back to loose rein, ask her to walk forward, see what happens. She dove her shoulder in right there. So I'm going to stand that up, and now just let her walk between my reins. All right, good. Now she's loosening up her neck, but she's not so forward heavy. I feel like if I asked her to stop and back up here, she probably would. Oh, now she wouldn't though. Boom, she just got way bigger. So, yeah, there she's not. Now she's actually backing up. Okay, so you go through phases on all horses, especially young horses though. Just like on the ground, we have those coping mechanisms that I've talked about. On their back, they're going to have coping mechanisms. And so for the longest time today, most of the day and most of the time I've been riding her, going too fast really hasn't been one of her coping mechanisms, which is good. It's going to make her a nice, first horse for you, that nice kid horse if you want to put kids on stuff like that on, or a beginner horse, because going fast is not really her go-to bad thing. But a lot of other things haven't been working or her coping mechanisms aren't getting her the relief that she's looking for because I'm not giving it to her. And so then she tries to go faster. I hope that makes sense. So that's why whenever she goes too fast, I'm just backing her up and letting her stand. Okay, I'm going to ask her to walk again. Now she dove that shoulder over, so I'm going to stand that up. Now I'm just going to go loose rein and let her walk. This walk feels pretty good, but I bet in a second she's going to kind of take off. Not like run off, but like she's going to speed up and get that power walk going. Oh. She went into that trot, so I'm just going to back her up. Now always before, I always had you, I'm just going to walk her off here again. Always before, I would have always told you to bend her around to a stop, right? And you can still do that, but now we have another tool. We have that stopping and backing. I'm going to go ahead and use that other tool now that she knows how to do that. But I wouldn't do that if I didn't have full confidence that she knows what to do with that, with pulling on both reins. Good. Now she's still up. She's still nervous, but she's controlling herself. She's walking instead of trotting. So over here is where she started trotting earlier. Let's see if she can just walk through it. Okay, she tries to dive in on that circle. I'm going to put her shoulder back where it's supposed to be. Drive her through this. Not let her get away with that. There. That's where she's supposed to be. She doesn't want to turn her butt to what's scaring her behind her, which is the saws and stuff. But hey, sometimes in life you got to do things that scare you. So. And she goes, oh my goodness, I can I can breathe. It didn't kill me. I turned my butt to that buzzing sound and it didn't attack me. Now she can relax a little bit. Okay, right there, she kind of tried to pull the rein out of my hand. So I'm gonna back her up. Now she's fallen onto my right side. I'm gonna get her off of that leg, back her up nice and straight. There, good. Now I'm just gonna ask her to walk off again. Oh, that time she didn't drop in on the right side like she did every time before. Good. I'm gonna start looking for a place to be done with the session here because she is getting overwhelmed. And I wanna be, so I'm just gonna go ahead and stop her, back her up. That was a softer stop. Oh, that time her hind end flew out to the right and I kind of caught it with my leg. So I'm putting that hind end back, put the hind end back, put the hind end back, put the hind end back. There. Good. It was a softer backup, but the hind end flew in and I had to put that back. So, and it really, I'm just going to let her sit here for a second. All the training from here on out is just this stuff. It's just fixing problems. You feel this go out of whack, put it back. You feel this go out of whack, put it back. And then we start doing more advanced stuff. Maybe we go work the flag, or we start trying, we trot and lope, and we got to get all this stuff working at the trot and lope. We have her trotting around in a bend or in a counter bend. We do lead changes. We do all these more advanced techniques, but it's all the same principle of just try it and see what doesn't work and be very critical about putting things back where they're supposed to be. Okay. I'm debating whether to be done or whether to walk her a little bit more. I want her to just walk a nice circle and forget about the arena, all the construction over there, and just cruise relaxed. She's getting pretty relaxed here. I might wait for her licking a chew and then ask her to just walk that circle and see if she can stay relaxed through the circle. So you notice I started the session with a lot of direct rein, bending. And then when I felt like she was good on that, then I transitioned to that indirect rein. And you notice I haven't really done any lateral flexion with her since that transition. And you notice she's also getting a little more anxious. So that's kind of part of the process, just something to be aware of. The more advanced the horse gets, and when she's in a good spot, she's pretty advanced. She just doesn't stay at that advanced spot all the time. But the more advanced the horse is, the less bending and lateral flexion you're going to do, and the more vertical flexion and straight line, lateral movements you're going to do. Lateral meaning their whole body, not lateral flexion where you're flexing their neck. And I feel like she just cocked a hind foot, which is a good sign of relaxation. But still want to wait for a lick and a chew. So when you're looking for an ending spot for a session, first off, you absolutely always want to end when they do something good, because that's the most powerful thing to write into their memory that it was good, is to be done on that. So you want to wait for them to do something good, and you also want for them to be relaxed. And sometimes those two don't always go together, so you just have to use your judgment. But you don't want to end when they're at an anxious point, and you really don't want to end if they just tested you and maybe you didn't have the best interaction. Don't end on that. So finding an ending spot is one of the more difficult things. I'm learning to keep my sessions shorter. I used to do really long sessions. Like I'd be on a horse an hour and a half, 2, 3 hours even, fairly routinely. And then I wouldn't have any time to ride all of my other horses. And what I figured out is if I shoot for like a 30-minute ride, it's plenty. The horse learns more getting a few good interactions and being done, and the next day getting a few good interactions and being done, and then doing that every single day or at least 5 days a week, and being able to hit all the horses that I have to train that way is so much better than a 3-hour day on one of them, and the next day you do a 3-hour day on a different one, and that first one doesn't get touched again for a week. It's just not. And 3 hours is just too much for their attention span. Just like kids, they say, like, or I guess adults too. I think our attention span is probably like 7, 8 minutes or something, maybe 15 minutes. We stretch it to an hour for like classes and stuff, but that's not really our attention span. And I think it's the same with horses. I think I tend to push them past their attention span a lot. Okay, now this is a good thing to see that she's doing. So she's kind of becoming aware, I call it, just like on the ground. She kind of looked back here and was like, oh, are we still here? And then she did some bigger breaths, not exactly deep breaths, but bigger. And I actually felt her, I don't know how to describe it, pulse a little bit under the saddle. And you'll feel that sometimes when they're relaxing. I don't know if it's their muscles or sometimes it feels like it's actually their heartbeat. Like you can actually feel the heartbeat through the saddle. I'm not sure exactly what you're feeling there, but if you feel those pulses through the saddle, don't be weirded out by it. It's actually a good thing. See there, her head's starting to relax a little. She's definitely got a foot cocked. The saddle's way off to the side now. I'll bet she'll lick and chew here pretty quick. And when she does, I'll probably just go ahead and be done on that. But I'm real happy with today overall because, my goal was to get her out and trot and just get her moving. We didn't maybe do as much trotting as I would have liked, but did some good trotting. She relaxed a little at the trot, which is awesome. I wanted to control the shoulders. I wanted to control the hips out here away from the fence. We did that. That was amazing. And I was even controlling her shoulders even at the trot, and especially at the walk. She would dive in on the circle or whatever, and I was able to stand the shoulders up. I was able to control her hips, both, well, not going forward yet. We haven't worked on hip control in the forward motion. That's more advanced. But I got her hips moving in the backward direction, which is great. I haven't done hip control from just a standstill where we try to keep her feet in the same place and her hind end moves. I mean, I've done that in the pen and I've done that on the fence, but I haven't done it out here. That's something I wanted to get to today, but we'll do that next time. But overall, real happy with today. So, still just waiting for a lick and a chew here. She tends to be a pretty stoic horse as far as licking and chewing. She kind of holds on to that anxiety, which has good and bad, by the way. That's not just a bad thing. If she gets injured, obviously you want to take care of the injury. You don't want to ride her when she's injured. But if you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have to ride her, or you have to at least walk her out to get something, being a stoic horse is a really good thing. It makes them really tough, but they can also take longer to get through to them. Get them to relax times like now. But I'm just making up stuff to talk about now until she licks and chews. I am kind of making sure that I stay just a little bit active on the saddle, like not continuous movement, but I'm just shifting my weight every now and then, just kind of making sure she knows I'm still up here. Sometimes when they're getting into this relaxation mode, if they really relax, it's fine. They're still aware. That's what you want. But sometimes they can go into a little bit of a shutdown mode, and they can get, they can forget that you're on them. and when you go to move, or you just, shift your weight or move your leg a little bit or something, it can startle them. And I don't want to startle her right now. It's the opposite of what I want to do. I want her to go into that relaxation. So I'm going to make sure I, keep moving up here a little bit, let her know that I'm still here, and wait for her to get into true relaxation and not shut down. It's pretty cool that I can have a session like this, though, with, all that stuff going on. Cody's up on the lift. He's sawing. He's throwing 2x8s around, going up and down on the lift. I mean, a lot of different things. Oh, the generator is running. The lift is running. A lot of things that could really freak out a horse. And we've done this whole session. I mean, I wouldn't say she was completely unaffected by it, but she performed great. Never did anything remotely unsafe. I think there was one time that she went into a trot, which was a faster gait than I asked for. I mean, I asked her to trot a few times, but out of the entire ride, there was only one time where she went into a gait that was faster than what I wanted her to do. So that's pretty cool. That gives me a lot of confidence in a horse when they can do that. And when she did go into that trot that I didn't ask for, I immediately backed her up, and she got to that back up pretty quick. I mean, it could have been quicker, but, things can always be better. But from a safety point of view, it was plenty quick. So that was very cool. I think we've talked about it before. She does tend to hold on to her licks and chews. She does not let down super easy on the ground or under saddle. But I think taking the time and waiting it out, horses don't have clocks. She doesn't have anything else to do today except go stand in the pen. If you think about horses in a herd, or if I put her in a pen with a bunch of other horses, they would just stand with her with each other all day long, right? They don't have any expectation of each other. They're not like, okay, I'm here for an hour and then I'm done. They just stand there for hours and hours and hours. And that's a lot of, I think, what builds up the trust. Now, you can't just do that, right? You can't just spend time with the horse and think that you're going to build that trust. You have to spend the time correctly, just like horses do with each other. They read each other's body language. They interact. One moves the other one around. Maybe the other one moves the other one around, whatever. There's more to it than just time. But I think there also is a big time component. And so being willing to wait as long as it takes, I don't care if it's going to take an hour here or 2 hours or 3 hours. I'm going to sit here until she licks and chews. And when she does, I'm going to give her a second first, so I don't want to startle her or make her think that the licking chewing was a bad thing. But then I'm going to jump off, loosen the cinch, and go put her up. She's going to get a big reward for that. And then next time, she's going to start to think, maybe if I relax, that would be that would get a good thing, like ending the session. She keeps cocking a foot one side and the other, and then the saddle's falling the other the other way. You can see, even though she's standing here still, or hopefully you can see between the two cameras, but even though she's standing here perfectly still, and we've been standing a long time. And I would say she's fairly relaxed. She's not completely, right? She's still holding on to some tension. You can see that by the angle of her neck. There's a lick and a chew. It was a pretty baby one, though. I might wait for a bigger one. That one, she started lick and chew, but it's almost like she stopped herself. There she goes. That's a little bit better. I can feel the change in her back. In fact, the saddle was just creaking. You probably couldn't hear it, but the saddle actually creaked because of the change in the musculature of her back. As her back relaxed and her head came down a little bit, her neck softened. Now I feel like she's actually relaxed. Now is when I'm going to go ahead and get off and end the session. This is how I would really like her throughout the whole session. Good girl. Now, one thing we've also been working on, and I don't have a really good technique for working on this. When I go to step off, a lot of times they'll pop their head back up. Like they're nice and relaxed, but they don't stay relaxed as I go to get off. And it's something I've been working on. I've been looking for better techniques to train through that, but just something I want you to be aware of. It's not a good thing, but as I go to step off here, watch, she's probably going to bounce her head up. Maybe not. She might be relaxed enough. She won't. Yeah, right there. Boom. Her head went up just a little bit. Did you notice that? And it's not a huge deal. I'm fine. It's not a deal breaker type of thing. It's something we got to get fixed before we can move on. But I would like her to be able to keep her head relaxed as I get off. But yeah, I don't know. We'll keep working on that one. If I find a good technique for that, I'll let you know. But overall, real happy with how she did today. Hopefully my new camera setup worked out, and I'm gonna go do some editing and see if I can sync up these two videos and the audio and get some cool footage to show. So have a good night.